Good morning. Okay, 6:30. Headed back north to, where is that? Wekiwachi, Mermaid Land in Tampa, Florida. So the title of the video is, They Will Put You Out of Their Synagogues. They will put you out of their synagogues. Why does that matter? Our good friend, our good brother in Christ.
Here I am. What were your other two wishes?
All right, who's got got 6 people already? That's quick.
Wow.
John.
What happened?
John, okay, so we're reading from the New Testament, and basically the importance of this verse is they will put you out of their synagogues. They, meaning the Jews, will put you out of the synagogues. And the reason why is this relevant to today? Because all the earth has been turned into a synagogue, more or less, and these guys will kick you out of it, and they're able to cut you off economically, and that's the mark of the beast. So that's why it's relevant. My good friend, can you do the reading for today?
Where am I reading?
John 16. John 16. John, unique.
John 16.
Like there's lots of verses in John that condemn the Jews. So what happens naturally, like you're looking like, oh, the synagogues are bad, the Jews are bad, they're the bad guys in this story. But that is not the case. So what has happened on earth is identity theft. The identity of the noble, regal house of Judah, which is one of the 12 tribes. So Israel is comprised of a total of 12 tribes. It's not just one. And what the synagogue of Satan has done through power over money is they've made up a false Israel. They made up a false, think of Scar in the movie The Lion King. You have a false authority in the position pretending that it is the authority. And that's what Jesus talks about with the wicked tenants. They're pretending that they're the owners when they're just the sojourners. So you got the verse?
I got it, man.
Can you read the whole thing, so we have some backdrop? Because it's in this dramatic portion of the Bible where Jesus is basically telling the apostles that it's going to get really bad for you guys. If you're a follower of me, they tried to kill me the whole time. They're going to try to kill you the whole time. Get ready for it. And the whole controversy is who obeys the law.
Well, it's not that they're going to try, they're going to succeed.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to die.
You're going to die trying to share the good news. So why would people kill you for sharing good news, which is in the Old Testament, right? Well, it's this cabal of fake Jews pretending to be Jews, which has been around for thousands of years. It's actually Esau impersonating Jacob. So if you go back to the Old Testament, in Genesis, there were 2 brothers. So you have the patriarch Abraham. He had a son named Isaac. Isaac had 2 sons. One that came out first was Esau, and the second was Jacob. And there's a controversy over the birthright between the 2 because they're twins. Generally, the first, meaning Ben or a Christian for Paul and I, whoever comes out first, they automatically get the birthright. However, Yah wanted to change that up, right? Just like he did with David. David was not the first. So the point is there's a controversy, and Jacob actually impersonated Esau with the connivance of the mom. And so the reason why is this relevant? Why does this matter? Like, that sin, basically one impersonating the other over a birthright, that same sin is being played out on the world stage right now. There's fake Jews impersonating, meaning Esau is impersonating Jacob, which is Israel. So it's a false flag and identity theft, and that same false flag was around at the time of Jesus's walk, because these same Old Testament imposters, they're the ones that were killing the prophets. It's the same group of guys that are the good guys in the New Testament, the same group of guys that were the good guys or the bad guys in the Old Testament. You had the prophets who came, hey, you got to get right with God, you got to have the Sabbaths, you got to cancel debt, you got to have the Jubilees where the land's given back.
I don't think God says any of that.
Sure, it's Leviticus.
No. That's not what was in the beginning.
So sticking to the title, will you read the verse?
What's the title?
They will put you out of the synagogues.
Oh, okay.
Like if you give the setting to the scene.
Well, that's what I was trying to get to. But, so it's all red letters. It's a lot of red letters. I guess you can read chapter 15 to really get a backstory. It's chapter 16, 2.
So before or after the resurrection? I think it's before.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's before.
Anyway. So, I mean, we can start at 16:1. It says, "These things have I spoken unto you, that ye should not be offended. They shall put you out of the synagogues. Yea, the time cometh that whosoever killeth you will think that he doeth God service. And these things will they do unto you, because they have not known the Father nor me."
Yeah. So when he says they don't know the Father, these people that were in charge during Jesus' time, Herod was an Edomite. He said he was a Jew, but he wasn't. He was an Edomite.
Who is Herod?
Herod, that was the king that was killing all the kids trying to get to Jesus. So basically today on earth, the same archetype or the same character is Red Shield. So Herod, Esau was red all over like a hairy beast. If you look up red and the significance, generally the Israelites are in white, and the Herodians are red, representing Esau. Think of red China, red shield. The Rothschild's name,
Red Cross.
Rothschild's name prior to that was Amschel Bauer. Why did he change his name to Red Shield, Rothschild? Why did he pick that specific name?
Does it sound more German?
So it's Roths, red in
German.
German. It's Rot.
It's German.
Red in German, Rot, R-O-T, is red. So my point is I'm trying to connect the dots all the way through to today's stage. So when Jesus says, like, can you not read the signs of the times? And basically the Bible is a history, which is prophecy. So what happened in the power structure where the money lenders were the head of the snake, as foretold in Deuteronomy 28, as does exist today, if you can understand the storytelling which is being told within Scripture, then you can see how you're being played today. You can see how the money lenders are the head of the snake. You can see why Jesus whipped the money lenders, why he canceled debt in the Lord's Prayer, why he proclaimed Jubilee when he himself went into the synagogues. Because going into the synagogues is the same thing that what's his name? Paul was doing after the cross, after the tree. So when you look at the Bible from a distance, you'll read and you'll be able to find a lot of evidence using individual verses of Scripture. Look, wow, the Jews are the bad guys. They're the ones that killed Jesus, which is true. Which is absolutely true. The Jews did kill Jesus, but it wasn't all of the Jews, because a lot of the Jews were on Jesus' side, and they were killed by the same Jews that killed Jesus, their own Messiah, and the Old Testament prophets. So,
really nobody knows where this guy's from.
so when we read a phrase like the synagogue of Satan in Revelation 2:11 and 3:11, where it says, I know they're blasphemy. They say they're Jews, but they're not Jews. They're talking about identity theft. They're saying that they're Jews, but they're actually Edomites. They are of Esau, and they hate Jacob. And they actually, those today, the dominant ones that they say they're Jews, the elite. I'm not saying every Jew today, just like not every Jew.
How do you know it's the elite only?
Because it's the head of the snake. The money lenders are the head. Deuteronomy 28:43. So when you control the money, you have the ability to make, just like Paul and I, we're going to drive for an hour, basically for money. It's this God we're going to sacrifice our money, energy, and time for. So the verse in question, which again is, they will put you out of their synagogues. So if all the synagogues are bad, like, who cares? Like, I just won't go to the synagogue anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll just stay.
No, what that means is you need to go to those synagogues until they kick you out.
Yeah, that's the commission.
You need to correct the corruption. You need to transfer the corruption in the synagogue back to its original form.
Yeah. So Paul did a cool thing that I appreciated. Like, he looked up all the times that the word synagogue was mentioned, and there's an Old Testament reference in Psalm witnessing that the synagogue is a good thing. It was a house of God, because you kind of think, like, you know, Old Testament is the tabernacle.
What synagogue really means? I don't, like, is that a Hebrew word? I don't think so.
Yeah. So
sin of God.
yeah, the word
That's
itself
God.
sounds like it's sin.
Of God. It's God. Sin of God. That sounds German. Let me look at the word synagogue in the dictionary. That's what
To look up the definition of synagogue, because the way I viewed it is, like, you have the origin, like the Israelites are on the Exodus, and they're not stopping. They're nomadic. They're wandering through the wilderness. So they have a portable tabernacle. By the way, the Feast of Tents is coming up, and you got to travel quick, right? Because Yah doesn't want you to be held down by all the material things. So the Feast of Tents is you flex your muscles, go out into the wilderness or your lawn, and rough it for a couple nights, and make a fire and sing, drop the technology and sing songs with your kids. So that's cool.
French.
So
French.
Jesus was surrounded by Jews that both supported him and opposed him. The Bible is a history of an ongoing Jewish civil war. This civil war is still ongoing, and the team that's winning materially in the physical world, that team temporarily is winning, and they're perpetrating identity theft, and they've monopolized the money on earth in the form of the Rothschilds and the Sassoons. That was during the Opium Wars, and they've used drugs, like during the Opium Wars, to seduce and enslaved populations. And now's the time for revelation, where everybody like figures it out. Like, wow, what do we do? What do we do? It's a mess. We're in captivity. These guys are culling us like Pharaoh, like Herod did to Jesus's generation.
It's Greek, I guess. It's a Greek word. Together, bring.
It's a Greek word. So you're reading it? This is out of a dictionary.
I don't know how to pronounce Greek,
Right.
but it comes from the Greek of Synagogues, which means together bring. So bring together.
A gathering.
I mean, the definition is the building where a Jewish assembly or congregation meets for religious worship and instruction. A Jewish assembly or congregation. But yet, the word origin is Greek,
Yeah.
meaning the sun again, if I'm pronouncing it doesn't.
And it's in the Old Testament,
Synagogue.
which is said to be Hebrew. The Old Testament alleges.
It's pronounced sin.
So a good way to view the world.
So it says it's Greek.
And that, like, being put out of the synagogue, we think of like that being like, oh, big deal. Like, what's the big deal if they put you out of the synagogue? Well, what that also means is that you are banished economically. You're cut off from employment, from commerce, from you're banished. So you got to go live in the woods like John the Baptist. That's what is being described there, and so that affects your ability to get married. You know what I mean? You're like a homeless person. Like you're an apostate in that society.
Not if you're doing it for the actual truth. Like that's the whole with 100% faith. It doesn't mean you're going to be walking around out there homeless.
Well, like here's an example of
It just
another
means
instance where
anywhere you go, God's going to provide for you, no matter what happens.
Well, yeah, there's that. Like I'm not like John the Baptist survived, obviously, and until the
I don't know. Wasn't he decapitated or something?
yeah by Herod. So there's all of these instances. Like, so this is during Jesus's time. It was Herod that decapitated John the Baptist, who was also a Jew, right? Herod said he was a Jew, but he was an Edomite. So the same struggle that is going on today is you have fake Jews that are led by Rothschild and the Schiffs and these Jewish bank houses that rule.
What was Rothschild's original
Bauer, Amschel Bauer. So he became Amschel Rothschild. So when you can, Revelation is the time where we connect all these dots. And so when you read the Bible and you see that Jerusalem is going to be destroyed in Revelation, it's because you have the Rothschilds, you have Scar sitting on the throne of Simba. So when Mustafa, when he's dead, when he says, "Remember who you are," right? Quit playing Hakuna Matata. Remember your responsibility to rule as Jesus commanded us, that I have given you all authority to rule and reign. We are supposed to tend the garden. And what we've done is we've dropped our authority because we've been deceived since childbirth.
Garden is your brain.
Man. Yeah, your brain is the garden too. Yeah.
It's your mind.
So you gotta...
The garden you need to tend is your mind.
You gotta remove the leaven from the garden.
Which is your mind. You gotta get rid of all these thoughts, emotions.
Like I say, like
impulses.
The idea, like the U.S. Constitution or the flag, the anthem. Like I went to the Boy Scout thing last night.
Oh yeah.
What do they call it? The
Trail life.
Trail life. Paul's been to it one time. Been to it one time. And like when you get up there, the first thing they do, like you, so there's like they're in the lobby of the church that we both periodically attend.
Church.
Which is
Gym.
Messiah. Yeah, it's in the gym, right?
Yeah.
There's actually, so you walk in, and to the right, they have boys lined up into 3 different columns, totally military. And the first squad is the Foxes. The next squad is one of them is the Wolves or something, or
Yeah, they have different. I forget what it was.
so each one of these different, like the youngest by age, my son was there as 4, and I kept him out of the formation. And literally, they're using the exact same unit sizes where the unit sizes are in the Old Testament. They do that in the U.S. The Marine Corps sizes of units is squads, and they were lined up in columns of 3, right? So it's the same. Well, if you look around, you see counterfeits of what God created.
Israelites weren't slaves; they were mercenaries. They were hired guns.
So anyway, in this camp group, they immediately started doing the traditions of man, where they're all singing the pledge to the flag, and a whole bunch of, they had a color guard where they brought the flags, and they're going right face, they're doing all the military commands. Basically, this is a grooming operation.
Yeah.
What we are watching is a grooming operation for Mammon to line kids up for child sacrifice into the U.S. military. It's a grooming operation.
Oh, but it's biblical.
The unit sizes are biblical.
That's where do you think they're using their entire military style from?
Well, the U.S. military says that you take an oath to defend the Constitution. Under the biblical thing, you're taking,
like a commandment that you must follow.
You're marrying Yah in the Bible. Here you're marrying a false god called the U.S. Constitution, which is we the people.
I don't know if you can call it marriage.
Yeah, smoke garbage, you smoke garbage.
Yeah, I think there's garbage truck.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so they're going to put you out of the synagogue. So how is this relevant to today? Like, that's the whole question. And in order to make it relevant today, there's a story about, man, the garbage truck. Holy smokes. Is that during Jesus' time, this was already set up. Like, his society was dominated by the synagogue of Satan. And because they had set up a false authority.
So are you saying Jesus is a failure?
No, he just hasn't, like, we're the failure. We haven't.
Well, Jesus is the failure then. He took all the sin for the world. Right?
Alright, but that's a whole nother topic to say Jesus is the failure, because, like, that's going to get us totally in the woods. So, relevant to this topic of getting kicked out of the synagogue, there is a verse where there was, when Jesus healed a blind man, he was blind since birth, his parents refused to testify of the witness, because the scribes and the Pharisees were going like, what does the miracle have? How can this man see again? And when the scribes and the Pharisees asked the parents, like, how was this miracle? They refused to testify because they knew that they would be put out of the synagogue. So the command had already been distributed at the synagogues, like, hey, if you're a supporter of this guy Jesus, a fellow Jew, who's actually been going into the synagogues proclaiming Jubilee from the Old Testament, they wanted to kill Jesus. As soon as Jesus proclaimed Jubilee in Luke 4:18 and 19, they were going to throw him off a cliff, and he had to give them the slip. So when you understand what's going on here, this is a civil war. He's saying, I'm going to cancel the debt. I'm going to redistribute the land. I'm going to abolish usury. I'm going to put the money lender. I'm going to put him out of business. business. I'm going to end the market in the temple. It's not supposed to be a market. Everything's not supposed to be dominated by money. And when we throw off the money power, we'll also throw off Caesar. Because it's the money power that emboldens Caesar to oppress. That's what we were talking about yesterday with Gideon. The form of the captivity is in the form of the money power will take over. And everybody will be enslaved by them. And then foreign aliens will come among us and enslave us. So that witness of the blind healing, you'll see a repeated verse says, for fear of the Jews. Jesus fled for fear of the Jews, and he would no longer preach in Judea. He would just preach up toward his hometown in Nazareth and all that. Galilee, up in the mountain region. So it was Jews killing Jews. So the Jews aren't bad. Like, for instance, Nehemiah was a righteous Jew who led a successful debt revolt in Nehemiah 5. He abolished usury, he canceled all the debts, and all of the land that was stolen through usury was repatriated to the lawful families. So that's restitution. So you see the biblical requirement for restitution, for theft. So that's how you create shalom, peace. Because the true crime, you don't just put the thief in jail, you also give him back the land. You don't arrest one banker, you abolish the root cause sin of usury. You don't just end the Federal Reserve, you stop the ongoing sin, which that is of usury, which concentrates wealth, and it takes us further and further away from the garden. Think of like the Amish or the American Indian, where they're less money focused than we are, because they had a society where they could like wake up in the morning and just hang out with their kids and go fishing or build a barn or whatever, you're building something for your immediate neighbor or family member. That's more natural society. So more like self-sufficient, anti-globalism, tribalism, localism, self-sufficient, organic, that's a good word, getting more attuned to nature, and whereas Babylon is a society that's completely controlled by technology, and the money power is sovereign, where all your decisions, or a lot of your decisions, are filtered through, do I have enough money? Will I lose my job if I say this? If I post this on Facebook, will I lose my job? Right? So you're able to be economically cut off. So the money power, its goal is to establish a new zeitgeist where everything is filtered through the power of this false authority of money. Whereas Yah says, hey, take every thought captive in obedience to Christ. And like, does this activity serve God, serve Yah? If I pay for sex with this girl, like, so you're taking every decision and you're filtering it. Does this glorify God? Right? If I'm going to be an image bearer and commit my physical body to being a vessel for the glory of God, the way to accomplish that is to filter all of your decisions through His morality. Like, so what can I could be kinder to people, I can be more generous, I can try to heal people, I could try to give them good counsel, I can stop being a skirt chaser, I can stop watching the Dallas Cowboys and obsessing over Tony Romo and Miles Austin. I'm trying to think of like the names, like, because I try to forget all that stuff. Roger Staubach, Tony Dorsett, and Too Tall Jones, right? Is that important, right? Is LeBron James, right? Is to having your own fantasy league football for like 3, 4, 5 years like I did? Is that a really good am I glorifying God by obsessing over this nonsense? So
Did you?
no, I don't think so. No, at that time I was paying for sex while I was married. You know what I mean? Just as evil and hedonistic as you can imagine. So all of those things come together because that's why Babylon promotes them. That's why the Super Bowl is the high holy day of Babylon, right? And they have a jet fly over. They glorify the other segment of the idolatry. Lots of money. The military is a huge part. The false hero worship of the U.S. military is an enormous part of the programming. And they started really young with movies. And the first movie that got me was March of the Wooden Soldiers. It's called Babes in Toyland. It's from the 20s or 30s. It was like a talkie. I think it was silent. It was sold. And it had Laurel and Hardy in it. And this movie affected me so much that when the good guys came, the hairs on the back of my neck would stand up like, here's the good guys. This is, when you watch a movie, you know how you're emotionally affected by movies and like where the good guys are coming around, right. Where you're like, yes, like,
yeah, it's always that moment in the story where like the meat of the actual whole point of the entire story starts like coming out and it like, sucks every emotion out of you, depending on the emotion they're after.
Like for me, like in a couple movies that do it for me, you tell me yours, like because I want to define the emotion first. Like is in Star Wars at the end when the Death Star exploded, like the whole building became light, like the theater. And I remember walking out of that movie when like strangers, you would high five strangers. For real. It was like everybody had this, yeah, screw Darth, you know what I mean? Ah, the good guys won, and people would be high fiving, like, and we as little boys, we would go back there day to day to day to day to day, over and over. We would go back for weeks on end watching this movie just to get that same moment where a whole bunch of people that you didn't know would high five each other.
Yeah, I don't think I ever had a movie experience like that.
In any, like...
Well, I remember, I think when they released Star Wars on
theater, like Independence Day was like
clapped
that. The movie Independence
before the movie
Day
even started. But it wasn't like everybody was like kissing babies and hugging and
not
like
that far. I'm just saying, like for a moment, like you high five people you didn't know, like at church. No. It was a type of church where you felt unified. The movie Independence Day was like that at the end because it was the good guys won, the aliens, we kicked the aliens out,
right?
And like people were high fiving each other. What movie like that does it for you? Or
none of them, really.
None of them?
No. I mean, I guess Star Wars, yeah, but it's. I mean, I've been able to just drop them, but yeah, I never really like. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like I like all of those movies, and I'm like I've been a fan forever, but I'm not like.
Okay, how about sports? It
just doesn't.
Where a guy that you liked, or a team that you liked, or whatever, you had that drama of like a comeback, like a Hail Mary, and like you're just like inspired, like you feel this human inspiration, like we did it, like you feel like you're part of a winning team, kind of thing.
Yeah, I play football, so I definitely do a lot of that.
Football, like sports, like especially if you're playing, like where you're just geeked. Didn't you get geeked to play?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like like where you're totally focused.
My sophomore year, I played like the entire game. I never got off the field. I was on everything.
Oh, you play both ways.
My sophomore year, I was on everything. I was kickoff, punt return.
Oh,
defense,
wow. You didn't walk
offense.
off the field.
I did not get off the field.
Oh, man, you're good.
My whole sophomore year.
Man, that's impressive because I couldn't get on the field.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I quit, and like just getting onto the JV, I was worthless. So, but I wanted to. I wanted it bad, but not.
Yeah.
I guess not enough to take the beating. I didn't want it that bad, I should say.
Right.
Because I didn't go rude.
Well, I didn't want it that bad either.
But you're just naturally talented. You're talented.
Yeah, but
that's saying something, man.
But they didn't like cultivate and tell me that I was talented or anything. They just kind of like, all right, you're good. We're just gonna throw you on the field. Like the coaches didn't like talk to me and say, hey, you're really good.
Well, the reason why this is significant today is that the culture, the money power's ability to control the heroes and the zeitgeist of a society, they do it through heroes. So they do it through, for me, it was like John Wayne. It was this movie based.
So does the Bible. I mean, David. Those are all heroes.
Well, I agree, but where's the movie about David being surrounded by his government and his government trying to kill him?
I'm sure there's plenty of movies. You just don't realize it's David.
No, I'm saying specifically that these stories, like Nehemiah 5, does not exist as a movie. Where's the new movie about a Nehemiah 5 debt revolt? Showing Nehemiah as a...
Make one. Write a script. Get it out there. If nobody's done one before, then that means it needs to be done.
That's my point.
So you gotta do it. You're the one that has to do it, though.
We're doing it right now. We're developing an audience that would care about
writing scripts. It keeps coming to me to write one, but I can't do it. I can't. It's just not. It's not part of my wiring to sit down long enough. And, just type it out. It's just the process of it. It's just. It's
well, you can hire somebody like Joseph Aquaviva.
It takes it out of having someone else write it. Kind of takes the creativity out of it.
Well, I kind of did something like that with
Star Wars. The Star Wars was his original idea. It wasn't he borrowed things from all kinds of other things.
It's kind of like writing a song. You have an idea for a song, and you could do parts of it. But there's people like the Beatles. They took as creative as John Lennon and Paul McCartney were, whatever, and George Harrison, all of them. They still had a lot of input from George Martin, who helped to frame it, to structure it, and
music. You need a producer.
And he was kind of a genius in his own right.
Third here, that is someone who's not playing but knows what sounds good.
Exactly.
You can't do that as the player. You can. It takes a long time.
Because I think you're super creative, and I know, I have created a lot of stuff too, and it's all based upon this revolution, this returning to the garden idea, and becoming what God intended it for us to be in the first place, where it's not just a huge lifetime of a rat race money chase. So it's totally doable. It's just humanity needs a new generation has to grow up on a different hero. In this Babes in Toyland thing, they basically had all of the Grimm's fairy tales. You had the Three Little Pigs. You had it's kind of like Shrek in a way, where you had all of the different stories. So it was a collection of all these stories that like Snow White, and so they're all kind of hanging out together.
Hansel and Gretel.
And there's these evil boogeymen. They're called boogeymen. And they were really scary looking, and the bad music came on, and they came in and they started just raping and pillaging, raiding. So all of this pillaging is going on, and it's just evil, the bad music, the bad guys. And then Laurel and Hardy remember that they make toys for Christmas for all the little kids. So one of the kids, so they have a warehouse where all the toys are, and all of the wooden soldiers are all lined up. But you have to wind them up. So Laurel and Hardy go run into the building and wind them up. and then they start
used robots.
They start the marching music, and they're all marching, and they've got they had a cross webbing, and they kind of look like Michael Jackson when he wore the military. What's that guy called that leads the marching band?
Flag bearer? The flag?
The guy he'd carry the scepter. The scepter, yeah, the Judah, like this is biblical. The scepter shall not leave Judah. So when you're marching, like you're like,
that guy.
The tom tom, or I don't know.
It's a baton.
A baton, okay.
I don't know.
Militarily, that's called in the Bible. That's called the scepter, and the Bible says the scepter shall not leave Judah. And Jesus says himself that salvation is of the Jews. Meaning, saying it's actually going to be the Jews that overcome the captivity, just like Jesus and Nehemiah. The leadership is going to come.
So we have to wait for Israel?
We are Israel.
Is that the comforter?
We are Israel.
We're not Israel, we're America.
No, you're not. You're European. You're French.
No, I was born in America.
So
I wasn't born in France.
Well, that's a question. That is a question to resolve. Are we European? Are the African Americans actually just African? So we're European Americans. Are we Americans? Or are the American Indians the Americans? I think the American, like the Hawaiians.
Wherever you're born, that's where
So if I was born in Hawaii, would I be
Because if
Hawaiian?
you want to trace it all the way back, then that's all the way back. Then we're all from Africa. Pangea. Just put them all together. Pangea. There you go. We're all
I'll
one
start at
species.
Europe.
Well, I don't know. What was when you look at Pangea, what was the best place to live in Pangea at that time? Like that kind of shit.
The Bible says we return to the land of our fathers, and the land of my fathers geographically is Europe. The people that look like
What
my
about
ancestors.
their fathers? What about your European fathers? Where did they come from?
I'm saying that's the 10 tribes. They went into dispersion.
Well, where's the original tribe? Where's the original temple?
I think God knew all. Basically, God wanted to. He's planted a
What is
seed,
the original temple?
and that seed has gone over the whole earth. And
Don't forget about those sunken cities. There's a lot of fathers we don't know about.
Yeah, and I think that's an important topic. There's these sunken cities, and there's prophecy that basically everything's going to be restored. So people are like, well, how can everybody return to Europe? Because it'll be overcrowded, all the Europeans.
Yeah.
And basically,
You can't.
when you return to pre-flood times, there's a lot of these cities that are underwater that will then be above water once the garden consciousness returns, that we stop partaking from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Stop sinking. Start rising.
When we rise, Atlantis. That's Atlantis.
Our false foundation is collapsing.
Yeah, because it was built on sand and it went underwater, and it comes back once you put it on rock. I like that analogy. That's awesome.
Rock.
On the rock, right? The cornerstone.
It would be a house of stone.
So when Jesus says, the cornerstone is rejected, Judaism, the true Israelite religion, monotheism, where only Yah is being loved and obeyed. We're not serving Rothschild. We're not serving Pharaoh. We're not serving Uncle Sam. We're not serving the United States military. We're not taking an oath to the U.S. Constitution. That's real monotheism. True monotheism is the same Creator God that gives you good counsel, that comforts you, that blesses you, that He's your helper. That same authority that speaks through the cannabis of Exodus, that inspires music and funky reggae parties, and we're going to be playing all that, and we're hoping. I can't read this. Can you, Joseph Aquaviva? So he's coming to the Feast of Tens. Can you talk to him a little bit? And,
Little bit.
that way we have some interaction with the audience.
Okay.
So Joseph Aquaviva, he's a local guy. He's in
We
St.
will
Pete.
not go quietly into the... There's also a... Oh my. In Garima Torati. So 12 tribes of Israel are being waited on to take their rightful positions as presently rulers.
Yes.
Me and reading right now are not a good idea. I don't understand what words I'm reading. I want to go up. Okay, there we go. Okay, Joseph Aquaviva says major, drum major, yes sir. I don't know. He's just kind of
Like that whole
he's
drum
sending
major
amens.
thing. If you think of
which is Egyptian, by the way.
if you think of Jericho, when they're marching around, it's a band and they're sounding their shofars, they're walking around
horns.
Jericho. I don't think that was a genocide. I think it was just, hey, we got the Ark of the Covenant. We've got this law where we're all free.
We have
These
a weapon
walls,
of mass destruction, and we're going to use it on you.
These walls of division are just manufactured.
Say your prayers now.
I don't hate the Africans. I don't hate the Asians. I don't hate the
polka
Hawaiians.
music. Do you think the Ark of the Covenant was like a speaker that just blasted polka music? Like, that's really all it was. They were just kept walking around playing polka music, and then eventually, like, everyone in the city just went insane.
Dude, it's like Mars Attack.
Yeah, their heads
playing,
exploded.
What's his name?
Oh gosh, I don't remember his name. Yeah. Oh, I can't remember the guy's
Whitman.
name.
Is it Phil Whitman?
Phil Whitman,
Bill
maybe?
Whitman? Oh no, it's from Hey Joseph, have you ever watched the movie Mars Attack? Because I think what we need to do is just play funky reggae music, and by playing that, it dissolves all the hate and it dissolves all the anger. And
Can't wait. He says he can't wait for Feast of Tents. Wish I was available to help you guys work today.
Yeah, I actually asked him. Like, he volunteered. He wants to build pools. Like,
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, he's
Awesome.
local. He's totally
Right,
down.
he's in St. Pete, I think, right?
So he when he's on Facebook, he comments just like
Joseph Aquaviva. Maybe I went to high school with him. I don't know.
I think he's about 30. I think he's about 30 years old. So Joseph Aquaviva, like, he's on Facebook groups with us where it's like cannabis
He
Christians.
says he has not seen Mars Attacks yet.
So in the movie Mars Attacks, like the aliens land. It's totally hilarious, by the way. And they keep going, we come in peace. And then the humans go, oh, they come in peace, yay! And then the Martians just start killing them all, over and over. So it's a good analogy for the government. We're from the government and we're here to help. But in the meantime, they just create carnage and you want democracy, right? It's just like everybody dies. And
Yeah, genocide, man.
so
Jericho.
so we say to
You
fix
gotta
that.
wipe out, you gotta burn everybody.
In the movie Mars Attack, the way the humans win is they start playing this guy like Whitman, and it's it's like he just yodels basically.
Yeah, oh man.
And the Martians' heads explode. So to make an analogy with the government, the thing that makes the thing they try to do is divide and conquer us. So any music and worldview that hates Babylon and unites people, reggae, I have found.
They're saying Sweden is a safe place to live. I don't know. Who's yodelers?
Yodelers, yeah.
Is that...
So come to Feast of Tents. We're anxious. So all three of us. So you're gonna have these cannabis dads getting together, singing songs, and he has children too of the same age.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's so awesome. We're creating a true house of Yah, where we're singing hallelujah to the Lord. Hallelujah. And basically the same things that happened in Acts 2 and 3. We're not in despair. We know that our best days are ahead of us. We have good news. We're not talking about the bad news that when you turn on the TV, it's constant bad news. Like, no, good news. We're going to return.
Retarded news.
We're returning to the garden. We want to return to the garden.
I was watching it the other night just to...
Okay, you're right.
It's retarded news. Especially local news. It's a joke.
And
I was watching it the other night just to watch it, and the main story was about a man that shot himself. And he was going to jail for that. I was like, what?
Oh, for having an illegal weapon.
They didn't say. They just said he was going to jail and he shot himself. It's like,
Wow.
what?
Talk about punishing the victim.
Like, why is that even? Why do I even care? Why does that even matter to me? Like, anything with a gun, they're gonna put it in the news. Like, it doesn't matter. It's like, why? Why does that? How is that news to anybody? You know, I mean, it was. Plus, it was news at like 11 o'clock at night. So
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Have you ever seen the videos of showing local news and how it's programmed? Meaning it's the same thing. Like, they'll have a script and they'll show like 10 different local news places through the country where it's like, fake news is really destroying the media. If we can't trust news, and it's like this public service announcement about fake news, meaning the stuff that you find on the internet isn't reliable, and we the people on the televisions, we're the purveyors of the truth news. Don't trust the internet news, only trust us. And it was like repeated all over the country.
I don't remember that.
So
Did you see that on Facebook?
No, it's on YouTube. Like, it's
on
obvious.
YouTube. That's better.
Yeah, they're showing that they're using a script that they repeat all over the country of propaganda. They're just repeating propaganda. So back to the topic. I got a GPS here in a second for this job site. So any follow, like from the topic for today is they will put you out of the synagogues. The lesson, I think the moral to the story that I perceive it is, they have made the whole earth their synagogue. And if we don't go to work, if we don't jump through their hoops, basically, they put us out of it. So not only do we not even go into their synagogues locally, they have conquered through the money power, and they have put their morality all over the planet to varying degrees, so much so that they have the mark of the beast power to economically cut us off if you don't go to work for them. With you can't buy and sell. You don't have the ability because you have no money. You're broke. You don't have any assets, and that's kind of the status of John the Baptist going way back. That's all for me. Any final words? Joseph, anxious to meet you in a couple weeks.
Yeah, buddy.
We're actually been communicating on Facebook that I'm gonna do his witness video, and it's basically the witness videos are like cannabis for me. What has been a healing. It helped me to cast out demons of idolatry, of self-limitation, of self-hate, of obsession with sports and sex and just all of that. And cannabis has helped me to heal that and to help me to get closer and closer to God, to surrender my ego and just try to follow Him and just be prepared to be wrong all of the time. And that same witness we've recorded with Daniel Potter, and then Joseph Viva. He binged watched, and I can tell that he's binge watching a lot of the videos that we created with Jim Callahan, witnessing the same thing, and Daniel Potter, and like we're doing now with to varying degrees with Paul. And so we're going to have a witness video recording, and I'm going to combine these and make them into one video of a bunch of Christians who are cannabis users, and we're not using it to just not go to work, just be lazy, because we're going to work right now. The video started and it was dark out. We build pools all of the time. We're not lazy. Paul is not lazy. He works on weekends to support his family. He's a very hard-working dude. We work in the rain. That is an absolute fact. So is Jim. Jim is built the same way. He works hard. And he's got mad skills. So we want to counter this narrative that cannabis is evil, that we should be looked down upon, and like, hey, anytime you want to come to work and see what you're made of, come build some pools with them. Go do some moving with Paul, and watch your back break.
Right.
And your hips.
Yes, please come.
Yeah.
Always need help.
There's hard work in those
yourself.
arenas, but there's also hard work in the creative realm, where we need to create art, music, and art,
Oh yeah, man.
and
What do you think I
theater,
do at night?
and movies, where we create noble stories of noble men, that so that our children can watch this other art, so that we don't fall into joining the military and the sports and all of those cults.
Well,
they're good to play, but it's an overemphasis on the material.
That's their choice, though.
Rather than this. So there is a real war going on between the material and the physical, and we want the spiritual side to win. Is that a good message? Go spiritual side. Can we unite on that?
Sure, spiritual side. I don't know if I want to say that I'm on any side, because I'm a Unitarian.
You're Unitarian?
Yeah, man.
All right.
It's all one.
It's all one. All right, one love, brothers and sisters. Let's
Finish.
finish.